Grace Bennett Caldwell stood in the corner of the grand ballroom, champagne glass untouched in her hand, watching her husband command the room like he owned it. In many ways he did. Ryan Caldwell's tech company had made him one of the youngest millionaires in the city, and events like the Sterling Heights Charity Gala were his stage. She had dressed carefully tonight. The crimson gown hugged her curves perfectly, the color chosen to complement her rich brown skin. Her hair was styled in elegant waves that cascaded past her shoulders. She'd spent 2 hours getting ready, hoping tonight might be different. Hoping he might actually see her. But Ryan hadn't looked at her once since they arrived 30 minutes ago. Grace watched as her husband threw his head back, laughing at something Thomas Richardson said. Thomas was a potential investor, someone Ryan had been courting for months. Ryan's hand gestured animatedly as he spoke, his whole body engaged in the conversation. That energy, that passion used to be directed at her. Now it was reserved for business deals and networking opportunities. She took a small sip of champagne, the bubbles tasteless on her tongue. Around her, the gala buzzed with life. Crystal chandeliers cast soft light over well-dressed guests. A string quartet played classical music from a raised platform. Waiters moved through the crowd with trays of appetizers. Everything was beautiful and expensive and cold. Grace had attended dozens of these events over their 10-year marriage. In the beginning, Ryan would keep her close, his hand on the small of her back, introducing her proudly. "This is my wife, Grace. Isn't she beautiful?" he'd say, and the way he looked at her made her feel like the only woman in the world. Now she was furniture. Decorative and easily forgotten. "Grace, darling, you look absolutely stunning." She turned to find Patricia Johnson approaching, the elderly philanthropist's kind eyes crinkling with a genuine smile. Patricia was one of the few people at these events who actually spoke to her. "Thank you, Patricia. You look wonderful yourself." Patricia's blue gown was elegant, her silver hair swept up in a classic style. She linked her arm through Grace's. "I wanted to discuss the community center project with you. Your ideas last month were brilliant. Have you given more thought to the mentorship program?" Grace felt a small spark of warmth. The community center was one of the few places where she felt useful. "I have, actually. I think pairing at-risk youth with local professionals could really make a difference. I've been researching similar programs in other cities." "Wonderful. Let's have lunch next week to discuss details. Are you free Tuesday?" "I'll make sure I am." Patricia squeezed her arm gently. "Good. You have such a gift for this work, Grace. Don't let anyone make you forget that." The older woman drifted away to greet other guests, leaving Grace wondering if Patricia somehow knew how invisible she felt. She glanced back toward Ryan. He'd moved to another group now, this one including the mayor and several city council members. His smile was bright, his posture confident. He belonged here in a way Grace never quite managed to. A waiter passed with a tray of appetizers. Grace waved him off politely. Her stomach was too tight to eat. She should mingle, she knew. She should work the room like a proper CEO's wife. But the thought of making small talk while her heart ached felt unbearable. She was about to retreat to the ladies' room when she heard Ryan's voice, louder than before. He was standing near a tall potted plant, talking to Gerald Hughes, another tech company owner. Grace had started to turn away when she heard her name. "Your wife seems lovely, Ryan. You're a lucky man." Grace froze. She was partially hidden by a marble column, close enough to hear but out of their direct line of sight. Ryan's laugh was casual, dismissive. "Grace? She's fine. Looks good at these things, which is what matters. But between you and me, Gerald, she doesn't really contribute much. She's just for show, you know? I handle all the real work." The words hit her like a physical blow. Grace's hand tightened around her champagne glass so hard she was surprised it didn't shatter. Her vision blurred, and for a moment she thought she might faint. Just for show. Doesn't contribute much. 10 years of marriage. 10 years of supporting his dreams, managing their home, handling the foundation work he was too busy for, attending these endless events. And that's what he thought of her. That's what he told other people. Grace's breath came in short, painful gasps. She forced herself to stay still, to not make a sound. The column hit her and she was grateful. She couldn't let anyone see her fall apart. Not here. Not in front of all these people. "Well, every successful man needs a beautiful wife," Gerald was saying, his tone suggesting he agreed with Ryan's assessment. "Appearances matter in our world." "Exactly. Grace understands her role. She shows up, looks pretty, doesn't ask questions. It works for both of us." Grace couldn't listen anymore. She set her champagne glass on a passing waiter's tray with shaking hands and walked toward the exit. Her heels clicked on the marble floor, but the sound was swallowed by the music and conversation. No one noticed her leaving. Why would they? She was just for show. The cool night air hit her face as she stepped outside. The valet looked at her questioningly, but she shook her head. She wasn't ready to go home yet. Home to the mansion she rattled around in alone most days. Home to the bedroom where Ryan slept on his side, she on hers, a canyon of space between them. Grace walked to the edge of the building's entrance, away from the bright lights and valet station. She wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the mild October evening. Tears threatened, but she blinked them back furiously. She wouldn't cry. Not yet. Not where someone might see. Her phone buzzed in her clutch. She pulled it out, hoping irrationally that it might be Ryan, that he'd noticed her absence. But it was just a text from Angela Morrison, her best friend. "How's the gala? Surviving?" Grace stared at the message. How was she? Her husband had just reduced their entire marriage to a business arrangement. She was a prop. A decoration. Something to make him look good while he dismissed everything she did. She typed back, "Leaving early. Can I come over?" Angela's response was immediate. "Always. Doors open." Grace requested a car service through an app, not trusting herself to drive. While she waited, she sent a single text to Ryan. "Not feeling well. Went home early." He wouldn't notice for hours. Maybe not until the event ended and he realized his decoration was missing. The car arrived and Grace slid into the back seat, giving the driver Angela's address instead of her own. As the vehicle pulled away from the gala, she looked back at the bright building. Through the tall windows, she could see the party continuing. Somewhere in there, Ryan was networking, laughing, building his empire. And he had no idea that his wife's heart was breaking. Have you ever felt invisible to the person who should see you most? Grace gave 10 years to a marriage that no longer valued her. What would you do in her place? Drop a comment below and subscribe to see how Grace reclaims her power. This story will remind you that your worth doesn't depend on anyone else's recognition. Angela Morrison opened her apartment door before Grace could knock. One look at her friend's face and Angela pulled her inside without a word. Grace held herself together until the door closed behind them. Then she broke. The sobs came from somewhere deep inside, a grief she'd been holding back for longer than she wanted to admit. Angela guided her to the couch, holding her while she cried. No questions, no platitudes, just steady presence. When the tears finally slowed, Angela handed her a box of tissues and disappeared into the kitchen. She returned with 2 mugs of tea, settling beside Grace on the comfortable blue couch. "Tell me," Angela said simply. Grace told her everything. The gala. The overheard conversation. Ryan's dismissive words that turned her entire life into a lie. Angela listened without interrupting, her brown eyes growing harder with each detail. "That absolute fool," Angela said when Grace finished. "I'm sorry, I know he's your husband, but what a complete idiot." Grace wiped her eyes, her mascara probably ruined beyond repair. "He's not wrong though. What do I contribute? I volunteer at the community center, but that's not a real job. I help with the foundation, but no one knows that. I attend his events and smile. Maybe I really am just for show." "Stop that right now." Angela's voice was firm. "You're talking about my best friend and I won't let you tear her down even if you're doing it to yourself." Grace looked at her friend. Angela had been her roommate in college, back before Ryan, before wealth, before everything got complicated. Angela had built her own event planning company from nothing, working 80-hour weeks to make it successful. She understood ambition and hard work. "Grace, do you remember junior year?" Angela asked. "When you planned that charity auction for the campus literacy program? That was ages ago. You raised $50,000. As a college student. You coordinated vendors, entertainment, got local businesses to donate items. It was incredible. The university still talks about it." Grace had forgotten about that. It felt like another lifetime. "And the foundation you run for Ryan's company," Angela continued. "Who do you think actually does that work? Because I guarantee it's not Ryan. He's too busy being impressed with himself. I just coordinate things." It's not. "It's not what? Important?" "Grace, that foundation has provided scholarships for hundreds of kids. It's funded after-school programs and community technology centers. That's your work, your vision. But Ryan gets to put his name on it and take credit at events." Grace hadn't thought about it that way. She'd always seen herself as just helping Ryan, supporting his success. But maybe Angela was right. Maybe she'd been doing more than she recognized. "You want to know what I think?" Angela set down her tea mug. I think you've been so focused on being the perfect wife that you forgot to be Grace. The Grace I knew in college had dreams. You wanted to work in nonprofit management. You talked about making a real difference. When did you give that up? When I got married, I guess. Ryan needed support while he built the company. It made sense for me to step back. For a while, maybe. But Grace, that was 10 years ago. His company is worth millions now. He has a whole staff. What does he need you to step back for anymore? The question hung in the air. Grace didn't have a good answer. I'm not saying leave him, Angela added gently. But I am saying you need to stop making yourself smaller to fit into his life. You deserve more than being arm candy at parties. Grace pulled a throw pillow into her lap, holding it like a shield. I don't know how to change things. This is what our marriage has become. Ryan doesn't even see me anymore. I could disappear tomorrow and I'm not sure he'd notice until he needed a date for the next event. Then make him notice. Not by chasing him or demanding attention, but by becoming so fully yourself that he can't ignore you. Angela leaned forward. Come work with me. What? My event planning company. I need help and you'd be perfect. You have the skills, Grace. You just haven't used them professionally. Start part-time. Test the waters. Remember what it feels like to be valued for what you can do, not just how you look. Grace's first instinct was to refuse. What would Ryan think? But then she remembered his words at the gala. Just for show. Doesn't contribute much. Why should she care what he thought when he clearly didn't care about her? Are you serious? Grace asked. Completely. I've wanted to ask you for a year, but I wasn't sure you were ready. You're ready now. I can see it. Grace thought about her days. They were empty if she was honest. Mornings alone in a house too big for two people. Afternoons volunteering or shopping or having lunch with other wives who seemed just as lost as she was. Evenings waiting for Ryan to come home late, eating dinner by herself most nights. What did she have to lose? Okay, Grace said. Yes, I want to try. Angela's face split into a huge grin. Really? Really? I can't keep living like this. Something has to change and I guess that something is me. Not just you. The situation. But you're right that you're the only one who can change it. Angela grabbed her laptop from the coffee table. Let me show you what I'm working on. There's a corporate gala next month that's giving me headaches. You could take the lead on it if you want. As Angela pulled up files and started explaining the project, Grace felt something stir inside her. It wasn't hope exactly, not yet. But it was possibility. A tiny spark of interest in something beyond her empty routine. They talked for hours. Angela showed her current projects, explained how the business worked, discussed opportunities and challenges. Grace found herself asking questions, offering ideas, feeling her brain engage in a way it hadn't in years. It was after midnight when Grace finally called another car service to take her home. Angela walked her to the door, hugging her tightly. Thank you, Grace said, for listening, for offering me this chance. Thank you for taking it. You're going to be amazing, Grace. Just wait. The ride home was quiet. Grace looked out the window at the city passing by, streetlights creating patterns in the darkness. Her phone had stayed silent all night. Ryan hadn't called or texted to check on her. She'd said she wasn't feeling well and left early, and he hadn't even bothered to ask if she was all right. The hurt of it was still fresh, but underneath it, something else was growing. Not anger exactly, but determination. She was done being invisible. Done waiting for Ryan to remember she existed. If he wanted to ignore her, fine. She'd build a life he couldn't ignore. The mansion was dark when she arrived home. Ryan's car wasn't in the garage. Still at the gala, probably. Or out for drinks after. Grace let herself in through the side door, disarming the security system. The house was beautiful. 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a gourmet kitchen she rarely used because Ryan preferred eating out or having meals catered. A home office where he worked late into the night. A guest wing that never had guests. Marble and hardwood and expensive furniture that felt cold no matter how she tried to warm it. Grace walked up the curved staircase to the bedroom she shared with Ryan. Shared was a generous term. They slept in the same room, but even that felt like they were miles apart. She changed out of her crimson gown, hanging it carefully in her massive closet. The dress was beautiful. She'd looked beautiful tonight. And none of it had mattered. Grace washed her face, taking off the makeup she'd applied so carefully. In the mirror, she saw a woman who'd forgotten how to be herself. But starting tomorrow, that would change. She climbed into bed on her side, the sheets cool and smooth. Her phone showed no new messages. Ryan was probably still networking, still building his empire. Good. Let him. Grace had her own plans now. She set her phone aside and closed her eyes. Sleep didn't come easy, her mind spinning with everything Angela had said, with the possibilities ahead. But underneath the anxiety and hurt, there was something new. A sense that maybe, just maybe, she could find herself again. And if Ryan didn't like it, well, he'd made it clear what he thought of her. She had nothing left to lose. Grace woke to an empty bed. Ryan's side was undisturbed, the pillows still perfectly arranged. He'd never come home. She checked her phone. One text sent at 2 a.m. Crashed at the office. Big meeting early. See you tonight. No concern about her supposed illness. No questions about why she'd left the gala. Nothing. Grace stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it. She got up and started her day. By 9 a.m. she was at Angela's office. The event planning company occupied the third floor of a renovated building downtown. The space was open and bright, with blue accent walls and plants everywhere. 3 other employees were already working, typing at computers or talking on phones. Angela looked up from her desk and smiled. You came. I said I would. I know, but I half expected you to change your mind overnight. Angela stood, grabbing a notebook. Come on, let me show you around properly. The tour was quick. There was a main workspace with 6 desks, a conference room, a kitchen area, and Angela's private office. The company handled everything from corporate events to weddings to charity galas. Grace recognized some of the photos on the wall from events she'd attended. This is Shauna, Angela said, introducing a woman in her 30s with kind eyes. She handles most of our wedding bookings. Nice to meet you, Shauna said warmly. Angela's told us you're coming on board. We can definitely use the help. Next was Jerome, a young man who managed vendor relationships. If you need flowers, catering, entertainment, I'm your guy, he said with a friendly grin. The last employee was Brenda, older and clearly experienced. She managed logistics and timelines. Angela says you have a good eye for detail. That's exactly what we need. Grace felt welcomed in a way she hadn't experienced in years. These people valued competence and contribution. Nothing about decorative wives or being just for show. Angela set Grace up at an empty desk with a computer and files for the corporate gala she'd mentioned the night before. This is for Hartman Industries. They want a fall-themed event for their top clients. 300 guests, formal but not stuffy. Budget is generous. I've got the basic framework, but it needs development. Grace opened the files and started reading. Within minutes she was lost in the details. Color schemes, menu options, entertainment possibilities. Her mind started connecting pieces, seeing how elements could work together. She barely noticed the time passing. When Angela touched her shoulder, Grace jumped. It's almost 1. Want to grab lunch? Grace looked at her computer screen in surprise. She'd been working for 4 hours straight. I didn't realize. Yes, lunch sounds good. They went to a small cafe nearby. Grace ordered a salad, still buzzing with ideas for the event. You're glowing, Angela observed. This is good for you. It feels good. I forgot what it's like to work on something real. The volunteer work you do is real too. I know, but this is different. This is mine. Not attached to Ryan's name or his company. Just me doing something I'm good at. Angela raised her iced tea. To new beginnings. Grace clinked her glass against Angela's. To new beginnings. They ate and talked about the gala. Grace had ideas about using rich autumn colors, incorporating local seasonal elements, creating an experience that felt warm and welcoming instead of stiff. Angela listened, occasionally jotting notes. This is exactly why I needed you, Angela said. You see the big picture and the details. That's rare. After lunch, Grace returned to work on the event. The afternoon flew by as quickly as the morning. By 5 o'clock, she had a comprehensive plan drafted. Angela reviewed it, her eyes widening. Grace, this is fantastic. Can you present it to the client Friday? Me? Present it? It's your plan. You should pitch it. I'll be there for support, but you should take the lead. Grace felt nervous excitement flutter in her stomach. Okay. Yes. I can do that. She drove home around 6, feeling energized in a way she hadn't in years. The mansion seemed less empty when she had something meaningful filling her thoughts. Ryan's car was in the garage when she arrived. She found him in his home office on the phone. He waved vaguely in her direction, still talking. Grace went upstairs to change out of her work clothes. Work clothes. She liked the sound of that. She was in the kitchen making herself dinner when Ryan finally appeared. He loosened his tie, looking tired. Hey. Feeling better? It took Grace a moment to remember she told him she was sick. Yes, much better. Good. I'm starving. What's for dinner? Grace looked at the single chicken breast she'd been preparing for herself. I didn't make enough for both of us. I didn't know when you'd be home. Ryan frowned slightly. I texted you this morning that I'd be home tonight. You said you'd see me tonight. That could have meant anything. He opened the refrigerator, surveying the contents. I'll just order something. Want anything? I'm cooking this. Ryan ordered food on his phone, then sat at the kitchen island scrolling through emails while he waited. Grace cooked her chicken, added vegetables, plated everything. The silence between them felt heavy. How was your day? Grace asked, more out of habit than real interest. Busy. The Richardson deal is finally moving forward. Should close next month. That's good. Yeah. Huge revenue bump. And the meeting with the mayor last night might lead to a city contract. Last night. The gala where he'd called her decorative and useless. Grace focused on cutting her chicken. Your day? Ryan asked absently, still looking at his phone. I started working. That got his attention. He looked up. What? Working. I got a job with Angela's event planning company. Ryan's expression was confused. Angela's little business? Why would you do that? Little business. Grace felt irritation spike. Because I wanted to. Because I'm good at event planning and Angela needed help. You don't need to work, Grace. Money isn't an issue. It's not about money. It's about doing something meaningful. Ryan shrugged, already losing interest. If you want a hobby, sure. Just don't let it interfere with important events. I need you available for company functions. A hobby. Grace set down her fork carefully. It's not a hobby. It's a job. A career. Okay, a job then. Same thing. Just make sure you're free when I need you. When I need you. Not a partnership. Not support. Just making sure his decoration was available when required. Grace finished her dinner in silence. Ryan's food arrived and he took it to his office to eat while working. She cleaned up the kitchen, her mind spinning. This was her life. A beautiful house where she lived alone, waiting to be needed for appearances. Well, not anymore. The next morning, Grace was back at Angela's office by 8:30. She spent the day refining the presentation for Friday, working with Jerome to get vendor quotes, talking through logistics with Brenda. Every person she interacted with treated her ideas with respect. Thursday followed the same pattern. Grace barely saw Ryan. He left early, came home late. She stopped trying to coordinate dinners or conversation. They were roommates at best. Friday morning, Grace dressed carefully for the client presentation. A blue dress, professional but stylish. She rehearsed her pitch, went over the materials, made sure everything was perfect. The presentation was at 2 p.m. Grace and Angela arrived at Hartman Industries 15 minutes early. The client, Patricia Hartman, was the CEO. A woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and an efficient manner. Show me what you've got, Patricia said after brief introductions. Grace took a breath and began. She walked through the event vision, explaining the autumn theme, showing mock-ups of the decor, outlining the menu, describing the entertainment. She addressed logistics, timeline, budget. She answered every question with confidence. When she finished, Patricia sat back in her chair. This is exactly what we wanted. Better, actually. You really understood the brief. Thank you, Grace said, her heart pounding. Angela, I'm glad you brought on this additional talent. Grace, I want you as the point person for this event. Can you handle that? Absolutely. They signed the contract that afternoon. Walking back to the office, Angela grabbed Grace's arm. You were incredible. Natural. That was a $60,000 contract you just landed. Grace felt giddy. I can't believe we got it. I can't. You were prepared, professional, and passionate. That's what clients want. Back at the office, the team congratulated her. Shauna brought out cupcakes she'd been hiding for the occasion. Grace felt surrounded by genuine support and celebration. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. Dinner with clients tonight. Won't be home until late. Grace didn't feel disappointed. She felt relieved. She texted back a simple okay, and put her phone away. Want to celebrate properly? Angela asked. There's a great restaurant nearby. My treat. I'd love that. They went to dinner, just the two of them. Angela ordered wine and they toasted to Grace's first major win. They talked about the event, about future projects, about Grace's ideas for the business. I think you should focus on corporate events and charity galas, Angela said. That's where your passion shows. Weddings are great, but your face lights up when you talk about events with purpose. I do love that work. Making something beautiful that also means something. Then that's what you should do. We can position you as the specialist in that area. Grace felt the pieces of herself coming back together. She had work she cared about. People who valued her. A future that excited her. Ryan didn't factor into any of it, and that realization didn't hurt as much as she'd expected. Saturday morning, Grace went to the community center where she volunteered. She'd been working with the youth mentorship program for 2 years, but usually in a behind-the-scenes capacity. Today she was meeting with Dorothy Harper, the center's director, to propose expanding the program. Dorothy was in her 70s, wise and warm. She'd run the center for 30 years. When Grace entered her office, Dorothy smiled. "Grace, good to see you, dear. You look different." "Happy. I feel different." Grace presented her ideas for the mentorship program, detailed and well-researched. Pairing at-risk youth with professionals in various fields. Creating structure and accountability. Building relationships that could change lives. Dorothy listened carefully, asking thoughtful questions. When Grace finished, the older woman nodded. "This is wonderful work, Grace. You've put real thought into this. I care about these kids. They deserve opportunities." "They do. And they need people like you who see their potential." Dorothy paused. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course. Are you happy, dear? In your life?" The question caught Grace off guard. "I'm working on it." "Good. You know, I've watched you volunteer here for 2 years. You're talented and kind. But you always seemed like you were hiding. Like you didn't want to take up too much space." Grace felt tears prick her eyes. "I think I forgot how to be myself. We all lose ourselves sometimes. The important thing is finding our way back." Dorothy reached across her desk, squeezing Grace's hand. "You're finding your way back. I can see it. Keep going." That evening, Grace was home alone again. Ryan was golfing with clients. She didn't mind. She worked on plans for the Hartman event, researched ideas for the mentorship program, thought about her future. Her phone rang. Her mother. "Hi, Mom." "Grace, honey, how are you? I feel like I haven't talked to you in forever." They chatted about family news, her mother's book club, her father's golf game. Normal things. Then her mother asked about Ryan. "He's fine. Busy with work." "He's always busy. Are you two doing all right?" Grace hesitated. Her mother had always liked Ryan. Thought he was a good provider, a smart businessman. "We're figuring things out." "That doesn't sound good." "It's complicated, Mom. Marriage often is. But Grace, don't lose yourself trying to hold on to someone else. You're worth more than that." The words echoed Dorothy's earlier message. Grace felt the truth of them settling into her bones. "I'm not losing myself anymore, Mom. I'm actually finding myself again." "Good. That's good, honey. Tell me about it." Grace told her mother about the job, about the client she'd landed, about feeling alive again. Her mother listened, asked questions, celebrated with her. When they hung up, Grace felt lighter. She'd been carrying the weight of a failing marriage alone for too long. Now she had people supporting her, believing in her. She didn't need Ryan to validate her worth. She was building her own life brick by brick. And if he never noticed, well, that said everything she needed to know about their marriage. But Grace wasn't giving up on it. Not yet. She was just refusing to disappear anymore. Whatever came next would come. For now, she was focused on becoming the woman she was meant to be. 3 weeks passed. Grace and Ryan lived in the same house but inhabited different worlds. Grace's days developed a rhythm. Morning coffee while reviewing event details. Days at Angela's office, working on the Hartman Gala and picking up 2 additional clients. Afternoons sometimes at the community center, developing the mentorship program. Evenings working from home or having dinner with Angela, occasionally her mother. Ryan's schedule remained unchanged. Early mornings at the office. Business lunches and dinners. Late nights working or networking. Weekends golfing or at conferences. They passed each other like strangers. Brief greetings in the hallway. Separate meals. Separate bedrooms now, Grace having moved to one of the guest rooms. Ryan had noticed but said nothing. The Hartman event was in 2 weeks, and Grace was completely immersed in preparations. Every detail was coming together beautifully. Patricia Hartman called regularly to check in, always pleased with Grace's updates. "You've made this process so easy," Patricia said during one call. "Usually event planning is stressful. You handle everything so smoothly." "That's the goal," Grace replied. "You should be able to enjoy your own event." "Well, you're succeeding. I've already recommended you to 3 other executives. When Grace told Angela about the referrals, her friend practically danced around the office. 3 referrals from Patricia Hartman? Grace, do you know who travels in her circles? These could be major contracts. I just did my job. You did more than that. You built a relationship. You made her feel heard and valued. That's what gets referrals. Grace was learning that business was about people, not just transactions. Every client had a vision they wanted to see realized. Her job was understanding that vision and making it better than they'd imagined. The same principle applied to the mentorship program. Grace had paired 5 teens with local professionals in their fields of interest. She'd created structure, expectations, regular check-ins. The relationships were already showing promise. One girl, Tisha, 15 and brilliant but struggling with confidence, had been paired with Dr. Kennedy, a physician at the local hospital. Tisha wanted to be a doctor but didn't believe she was smart enough. After 3 weeks of mentorship, she was talking about college prep courses and scholarship applications. You changed her life, Dorothy told Grace. She believes in herself now. Dr. Kennedy did that, not me. You made the match. You saw what she needed and connected her with someone who could help. That's a gift, Grace. Grace was discovering she had many gifts she'd forgotten about. Organization. Vision. The ability to see what people needed and create solutions. These skills had been dormant, but they were coming back to life. At home, the distance between her and Ryan grew wider. They'd stopped even pretending to have conversations. Ryan didn't ask about her days and Grace stopped sharing. They were polite strangers sharing space. One Thursday evening, Grace was working at the kitchen table when Ryan came home earlier than usual. He looked surprised to see her. You're home. I live here, Grace said mildly, not looking up from her laptop. You're just not around much lately. Neither are you. Ryan opened the refrigerator, grabbed a water bottle. I'm working, Grace. Building the company. I'm working too. That's different. Grace finally looked at him. How? My work supports our lifestyle. Your thing with Angela is... He trailed off, clearly trying to find the right words. My thing? It's a job, Ryan. A career. Just because you don't take it seriously doesn't make it less real. I didn't say it wasn't real. I just meant it's not necessary. It's necessary to me. Ryan sighed, clearly not wanting an argument. Fine. Whatever makes you happy. Whatever makes you happy. As if her happiness was a whim he was indulging. Why did you marry me, Ryan? The question seemed to catch him off guard. What? 10 years ago. Why did you marry me? I loved you. I still love you. Do you? Grace closed her laptop. When's the last time you really looked at me? Talked to me? Cared about what I think or feel? Grace, I'm busy. You know that. Building a company takes time. You built the company years ago. It's successful. You have staff, managers, systems. What exactly are you building now? I'm growing it. Expanding. That takes constant work. And I'm supposed to just wait around for you to have 5 minutes for me? Ryan set down his water bottle, frustration showing on his face. What do you want from me? I provide for you. You have everything you need. Except a husband. That's not fair. Isn't it? Grace stood. We haven't had a real conversation in months. We barely see each other. You don't know anything about my life because you never ask. Tell me, Ryan, what did I do today? You were at Angela's office, I assume? Wrong. I was at the community center this morning working on the mentorship program. Then I met with a potential new client for a charity gala. This afternoon, I helped Jerome negotiate with a catering company for the Hartman event. Tonight, I'm finalizing seating arrangements. But you assumed I was just at Angela's office because you don't actually care about the details of my life. Ryan looked uncomfortable. I care, Grace. I've just been distracted. You're always distracted. I could disappear tomorrow and you wouldn't notice until you needed a date for some event. That's not true. Isn't it? Grace picked up her laptop. You know what? It doesn't matter. I'm building my own life now. You can keep building your company. Maybe we'll meet in the middle someday. Or maybe we won't. She walked out of the kitchen, leaving Ryan standing alone. She heard him call her name but didn't stop. There was nothing more to say. In her guest bedroom, Grace sat on the bed and took several deep breaths. The conversation had been brewing for weeks. Part of her felt relieved it finally happened. Another part felt sad that it changed nothing. Ryan didn't understand. He'd built his entire identity around success and wealth. Everything else, including their marriage, was secondary. Grace had accepted that for years, making herself small to fit into his priorities. But she was done being small. Her phone rang. Angela. Hey, quick question about the Hartman event. Do you have the final head count? Grace pulled up the file, giving Angela the number they needed. Perfect. Also, I forwarded you an email from Patricia's friend, Margaret Summers. She wants to meet about a gala for her nonprofit. $300,000 budget. $300,000? Yep. For a hospital fundraiser. This could be huge, Grace. Send me the details. I'll review everything and set up a meeting. They talked through a few more logistics, then Angela said, You okay? You sound off. Just had a conversation with Ryan. Nothing major. About the marriage? About the lack of one. I'm sorry, Grace. I know this is hard. It's sad more than hard. We're living separate lives under one roof. I don't know how to fix that. Can it be fixed? Do you want it to be? Grace thought about that. I still love him. Or I love who he used to be. The man who looked at me like I mattered. But that man's been gone for years. Maybe he can find his way back. Maybe. But I can't wait around hoping. I have to keep moving forward. Then that's what you do. Build your life. Be happy. If Ryan wants to be part of that, he'll figure it out. And if he doesn't, you'll be okay anyway. After they hung up, Grace got ready for bed. Through the walls, she could hear Ryan moving around in the master bedroom. Once upon a time they'd shared that space. Shared everything. Now they were strangers who happened to have the same last name. Grace turned off the light and tried to sleep. Tomorrow was Friday. She had the meeting with Margaret Summers. More work on the Hartman event. A mentoring session with Tisha at the community center. Her life was full. Meaningful. She was making a difference in real ways. If Ryan couldn't see that, couldn't value it, that was his loss. Not hers. Never again hers. The next morning, Grace dressed in a green dress for her meeting with Margaret Summers. The color made her feel confident, powerful. She'd started dressing for herself lately, choosing colors she loved instead of the neutral tones Ryan preferred. The meeting was at a restaurant downtown. Margaret turned out to be a woman in her 60s, elegant and warm. She ran a nonprofit that supported pediatric cancer research. Patricia Hartman spoke very highly of you, Margaret said as they looked over menus. She said you're professional, creative, and actually listen to what clients want. That's kind of her to say. Patricia isn't kind. She's honest. Margaret smiled. Tell me, Grace, what makes you different from other event planners? Grace thought about the question. I care about why events matter, not just how they look. Your hospital fundraiser isn't just a party. It's about saving children's lives. The event should reflect that purpose. Beautiful, yes, but also meaningful. Every detail should remind guests why they're there and why their donations matter. Margaret set down her menu. That's exactly what I want. Too many event planners focus on showing off. Making things impressive but empty. I want substance. They talked for over an hour. Grace took notes, asked questions, listened carefully. By the time they ordered dessert, she had a clear vision for the gala. When can you send me a proposal? Margaret asked. Monday morning. I'll have a full plan with budget, timeline, and concept. Perfect. I have a feeling we're going to work well together. Leaving the restaurant, Grace felt energized. Another major client. More opportunities to do work that mattered. Her phone showed several missed calls from an unknown number. Before she could check the messages, the phone rang again. Same number. Hello? Is this Grace Caldwell? A woman's voice. Yes, who's calling? This is Helen Caldwell. Ryan's mother. Grace's stomach tightened. She and Helen had a cordial relationship, but they weren't close. Helen calling directly was unusual. Hello, Helen. Is everything all right? That's what I'm calling to ask you. Ryan's father and I are concerned. We haven't heard from you in weeks. Ryan says you're both fine, but I wanted to check myself. Grace wasn't sure how to respond. Things are complicated right now. Can we meet for coffee? Today if possible. I'm in town visiting a friend. Grace hesitated, then agreed. They arranged to meet in an hour at a cafe near Helen's hotel. Helen Caldwell was in her 60s, elegant and sharp. She'd built her own successful career before retiring. Ryan got his drive from her. They sat in a quiet corner of the cafe, coffee cups between them. Helen studied Grace with knowing eyes. You look different, Helen said. Stronger somehow. I've been working. I have a job now. Ryan mentioned that. He made it sound trivial. I suspect it's not. It's not. I'm an event planner. I just landed a $300,000 contract. Helen's eyebrows rose. Impressive. What kind of event? Grace described the hospital fundraiser, the vision she had for it, the impact it could make. Helen listened attentively. You're passionate about this work. It shows. I am. It feels like I'm finally doing something that matters. And Ryan? How does he feel about it? Grace chose her words carefully. Ryan is focused on his company. He sees my work as a hobby. Of course he does. He's his father's son in that way. Work obsessed, blind to everything else. Helen sighed. My marriage nearly ended because of it. Lawrence was building his business, working 16-hour days, traveling constantly. I was home with Ryan, feeling like a single mother. We almost divorced. Grace didn't know that. What changed? I changed. I went back to school, started my own career. Stopped waiting for Lawrence to prioritize me and started prioritizing myself. It shook him awake. Made him realize what he was about to lose. Did things get better? Eventually. It took work, counseling, hard conversations. But yes, we found our way back to each other. We had to become partners again instead of roommates. The parallel to Grace's situation was obvious. Ryan doesn't see a problem. He thinks everything is fine. Men often don't see problems until they're undeniable. Helen reached across the table, covering Grace's hand with hers. I don't know what's best for your marriage. Only you and Ryan can figure that out. But I do know this, you deserve to be seen, valued, appreciated. If Ryan can't do that, it's his failing, not yours. Grace felt tears threaten. I still love him. But I don't know if love is enough. Love is necessary but not sufficient. You also need respect, partnership, effort. Both people have to want the marriage to work. I don't know if Ryan wants that. He seems content with how things are. Then shake up the status quo. Force him to pay attention. Not by demanding or begging, but by living your life fully. Make him realize what he's missing. After coffee, Helen hugged Grace tightly. You're stronger than you think. Trust yourself. Grace drove home feeling unsettled but also validated. She wasn't crazy or unreasonable. Her feelings were legitimate. Ryan's car was in the garage when she arrived. Unusual for a Friday afternoon. She found him in his office on a video call. He saw her, held up a finger for her to wait. Grace went upstairs instead. She didn't have time to wait for Ryan to finish business calls. She had a proposal to write for Margaret Summers. She worked for 3 hours, creating a comprehensive plan for the hospital fundraiser. Theme, timeline, budget, logistics. Every detail considered and explained. When she finally emerged from her room, it was after 8. Ryan was in the kitchen eating takeout. Want some? He offered. Chinese food. I'm not hungry. Grace, my mother called me today. She said you two had coffee. We did. She thinks we're having problems. Grace laughed, the sound surprising her. We are having problems, Ryan? I don't understand what you want from me. Grace sat down across from him. I want you to see me. To care about my life. To be my partner, not just my husband in name. I do care. No, you don't. You care about your business. I'm just an accessory to your success. Ryan set down his food. That's not fair. 2 weeks ago, I landed a $60,000 contract. Did you even know that? You didn't tell me. I shouldn't have to announce every achievement for you to care. You should ask. You should be interested in my life. I've been busy. You're always busy. But you know what? So am I. I'm building something real. People value my work. They respect my ideas. I'm making a difference. I never said you weren't. You've never said I was either. That's the problem, Ryan. You don't say anything. You don't see anything. I could achieve amazing things or do nothing at all and you wouldn't notice the difference. Ryan looked uncomfortable. I didn't realize you felt this way. That's because you never asked. They stared at each other across the kitchen table. Grace felt the weight of everything unsaid between them. Years of neglect and growing apart. I don't know how to fix this, Ryan finally said. I don't either. But I'm done trying to fix it alone. If you want this marriage to work, you have to try too. Really try. Not just say nice words and go back to ignoring me. I don't ignore you. You do. Constantly. And I let you because I didn't think I deserved better. But I do deserve better. I deserve a partner who values me. Grace stood. I'm going to keep building my career. Keep doing work that matters. If you want to be part of that life, you're welcome. But I'm not waiting around anymore for you to decide I'm worth your time. She walked away, leaving Ryan alone with his takeout. Part of her wanted him to follow, to fight for their marriage. But he didn't. Grace locked herself in her guest room and cried. Not from weakness, but from grief. grieving the marriage she'd hoped for and the reality of what it had become. But underneath the grief was strength. She'd spoken her truth, set boundaries, made clear what she needed. Now it was up to Ryan to decide if their marriage was worth fighting for. Grace couldn't control his choice. She could only control her own. And she was choosing herself. Finally, completely choosing herself. The following week brought a shift Grace didn't anticipate. Ryan's company announced a partnership with Novatech Solutions, a mid-sized tech firm run by Nicole Foster. Grace first learned about it from the business section of the newspaper. There was a photo of Ryan and Nicole shaking hands, both smiling. The caption mentioned the strategic partnership and potential for expansion into new markets. Nicole Foster was attractive, Grace noticed. Mid-30s, perfectly styled dark hair, wearing a tailored blue suit that screamed success. She had the look of someone who knew her worth and commanded respect. Grace felt a tiny flicker of something. Not quite jealousy. More like awareness that her marriage had a crack and someone else might notice. She dismissed the thought and focused on work. The Hartman Industries Gala was in 10 days and every moment mattered. Grace spent her days coordinating final details, confirming vendors, managing the timeline with precision. Tuesday afternoon, she was at the venue doing a walkthrough when Angela called. "Have you seen the society pages?" "No, why?" "There's a photo of Ryan at dinner last night with Nicole Foster. The caption calls them close business partners." Close is in quotes, Grace. Grace's stomach tightened. Okay. That's your response. What do you want me to say? Ryan's allowed to have business dinners. It looks like more than business. She's touching his arm in the photo. Grace closed her eyes. Send me the link. She pulled up the photo on her phone. Ryan and Nicole sat at an upscale restaurant, wine glasses between them. Nicole was leaning forward, her hand on Ryan's forearm, laughing at something. Ryan looked pleased, engaged in a way Grace rarely saw anymore. It hurt. Even though her marriage was barely functioning, seeing her husband with another woman stung. "Grace? You still there?" "Yeah. I'm here." "What are you going to do?" "Nothing. If Ryan wants to have dinner with business partners, that's his choice." "This doesn't bother you?" "Of course it bothers me. But I'm not going to chase him or make a scene. He's going to make his own decisions. I can't control that." Angela was quiet for a moment. "You're stronger than I would be. I'm just tired of fighting for someone who isn't fighting for me." That evening, Grace went home to find Ryan wasn't there. She made herself dinner, worked on final details for the hospital fundraiser proposal, went to bed early. Ryan came home after midnight. She heard him moving around, but he didn't come to her room. Over the next few days, the pattern continued. Ryan was out for multiple business dinners. Photos appeared online of him and Nicole at a tech conference, at a restaurant, at a networking event. The gossip in their social circle was getting louder. Patricia Hartman mentioned it during a check-in call. "Grace, I hope this isn't out of line, but I've seen the photos of Ryan with Nicole Foster. Are you all right?" "I'm fine. They're business partners. Ryan's allowed to work." "Of course. I just wanted you to know that I think Nicole's reputation is questionable. She's known for being opportunistic in business and personal matters." "Thank you for the heads up." "And Grace? You're worth 10 of her. Don't forget that." The kindness nearly broke Grace. She thanked Patricia and hung up quickly, blinking back tears. Friday evening, Grace was home working when her phone rang. "Ryan. Hey, I'm bringing Nicole by the house. She wants to see the art collection in my office. We'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up before Grace could respond. Bringing Nicole to their home. That felt like a line crossed. Grace considered leaving. Going to Angela's or just driving somewhere. But this was her house too. She wouldn't be pushed out of her own home. When Ryan and Nicole arrived, Grace was in the living room with her laptop. Ryan looked surprised to see her. "Grace, you're home." "I live here." Ryan's expression tightened slightly at the reminder. "This is Nicole Foster. Nicole, my wife, Grace." Nicole extended a hand, her smile professional. "Nice to meet you, Grace. Ryan's told me so much about you." Grace doubted that. "Welcome to our home. It's beautiful. Ryan was just telling me about the art collection." They disappeared into Ryan's office. Grace tried to focus on work but couldn't. She heard laughter, conversation, the sounds of two people enjoying each other's company. After 45 minutes, Grace had enough. She packed up her laptop and went upstairs to her room. If Ryan and Nicole wanted to carry on in his office, she didn't need to witness it. She was in bed reading when Ryan knocked on her door around 10. "Grace? Can I come in?" "It's your house too." Ryan entered, closing the door behind him. Nicole just left. Okay. You were rude. Grace set down her book. Excuse me? You barely spoke to her. It was uncomfortable. I said hello and welcome. What else was I supposed to do? You could have been friendly. She's an important business partner. Then entertain your business partner yourself. I'm not required to host your colleagues at 10 at night. She wanted to see the house. The house or your office. Because that's where you spent the entire evening. Ryan crossed his arms. Are you jealous? Of Nicole? No. Then what's the problem? Grace got out of bed, facing him. The problem is that you've been ignoring me for months. Yours really? But now you're parading around town with Nicole Foster, having dinners and bringing her to our house. The problem is that everyone in our social circle is talking about it. The problem is that you don't seem to care how this looks or how it makes me feel. We're just business partners. Are you? Because from the photos it looks like more. She's interested in the company, not me. Ryan, she's interested in you. Everyone can see it except you. Or maybe you do see it and you like the attention. That's ridiculous. Is it? When's the last time you took me to dinner? When's the last time we spent an evening together? But you have time for multiple dinners with Nicole. Those are work meetings. At romantic restaurants? Just the two of you? That's not work, Ryan. That's dating. I'm not dating her. Maybe not intentionally. But that's what it's becoming. And the sad part is that you don't even realize what you're doing. Or maybe you do and you just don't care. Ryan looked frustrated. I can't win with you. You complain I don't pay attention to you. Then when I have business meetings, you complain about that too. I'm not complaining about business meetings. I'm pointing out that you treat Nicole with more care and attention than you treat your wife. You make time for her. You're engaged when you talk to her. But with me? Nothing. That's not true. It is true. And if you can't see that, we have bigger problems than Nicole Foster. Ryan ran a hand through his hair. What do you want from me, Grace? I want you to choose our marriage. Actually choose it. Put in effort. But I don't think you want that. Of course I do. Then prove it. Stop having dinners with Nicole. Stop bringing her to our house. Focus on your wife for once. You're being unreasonable. Nicole is a valuable business connection. And I'm your wife. Which matters more? The question hung between them. Ryan didn't answer immediately, and that silence told Grace everything. Get out of my room, she said quietly. Grace. Get out. I'm done with this conversation. Ryan left, closing the door harder than necessary. Grace sat back down on the bed, her hands shaking. She'd given him a clear choice. Their marriage or his business connection with Nicole. He hadn't been able to choose. Grace didn't sleep well that night. She kept thinking about Ryan's face, his inability to answer her question. The realization that maybe their marriage was already over, just waiting for one of them to admit it. But Grace wasn't ready to give up completely. Not yet. She still remembered the man Ryan used to be. The man who loved her. Maybe that man was still somewhere inside the success-focused CEO who'd forgotten what mattered. Or maybe he was gone forever. Either way, Grace had made her position clear. She wouldn't beg for his attention. Wouldn't compete with Nicole or anyone else. She would keep building her own life. And if Ryan wanted to be part of it, he knew what he needed to do. The next week passed in a blur of final preparations for the Hartman Gala. Grace threw herself into work, making sure every detail was perfect. She barely saw Ryan. He was at the office early, home late. They didn't speak beyond necessary logistics. Grace heard through mutual acquaintances that Ryan and Nicole were seen together several more times. The gossip was getting louder. People were speculating about their relationship. Grace held her head high. Let them talk. She knew the truth. Her marriage was in trouble, but she hadn't given up on it. If Ryan wanted to embarrass them both by carrying on publicly with Nicole, that was his choice. The day before the Hartman Gala, Grace did a final venue walkthrough. Everything was ready. The decor was stunning, the logistics perfect, the timeline detailed. This event would be her biggest success yet. Her phone rang as she was leaving the venue. Unknown number. Hello? Grace Caldwell? A man's voice. Yes. This is James Chin from the Tribune. I'm writing a piece about local business figures and their families. I wanted to ask you about your husband's relationship with Nicole Foster. Grace's blood ran cold. No comment. Are you aware that? She hung up. A reporter. Calling her about Ryan and Nicole. This was getting out of hand. Grace immediately called Ryan. He answered on the fourth ring. What? A reporter just called me asking about you and Nicole. Silence. Ryan? Did you hear me? What did you say? No comment. But this is serious. If reporters are calling, this story is about to go public. There's no story. We're just business partners. Then you need to make that clear. Stop the dinners. Stop the public appearances. Unless you want our private lives splashed across the newspaper. I'll handle it. Will you? Because from where I'm standing, you're not handling anything well. Ryan hung up. Grace stood in the parking lot, phone in hand, feeling the full weight of her situation. Her marriage was falling apart publicly. Reporters were circling. And tomorrow was her biggest event yet. She couldn't fall apart. Not now. Not when she'd worked so hard. Grace got in her car and drove to the community center. She needed to see Dorothy. Needed wisdom from someone who'd lived through hard times. Dorothy was in her office as always. She took one look at Grace's face and closed the door. Tell me. Grace told her everything. Ryan's neglect. Nicole Foster. The photos. The gossip. The reporter. Tomorrow's gala. The weight of it all. Dorothy listened without interrupting. When Grace finished, the older woman was quiet for a long moment. What do you want, Grace? Not what you think you should want. Not what's expected. What does your heart want? I want my marriage back. I want Ryan to remember why he married me. I want us to be partners again. Is that possible? I don't know. Maybe not. But I'm not ready to give up yet. Then don't. But also don't set yourself on fire to keep him warm. You can fight for your marriage without losing yourself. How? By being exactly who you are. Strong, talented, valuable. By showing him what he's losing if he chooses wrong. Not through games or manipulation, but through living your best life. And if he still doesn't see it? Then you'll know you tried. And you'll move forward knowing you didn't compromise who you are. Grace hugged Dorothy, grateful for the steady wisdom. She drove home feeling marginally better. Tomorrow was the Hartman Gala. She'd worked too hard to let Ryan's mess ruin it. She would walk into that event with her head high. She would be professional, confident, successful. And everyone would see that Grace Caldwell was more than just a CEO's wife. She was her own person. And she was extraordinary. The Hartman Industries Gala was everything Grace had envisioned and more. She arrived at the venue 2 hours early, overseeing final setup. The autumn theme was stunning. Rich burgundy and gold accents transformed the ballroom. Centerpieces featured seasonal flowers and candles. Soft lighting created an elegant warmth. Every detail worked together perfectly. Angela arrived an hour before guests, walking through the space with wide eyes. Grace, this is incredible. Better than I imagined. Everyone did amazing work. Jerome found the perfect vendors. Brenda's timeline kept us on track. Shauna helped with the seating arrangements. But you pulled it together. This is your vision. Grace felt pride swell in her chest. This was her work. Her creation. No one could take credit but her. Guests began arriving at 7. Grace positioned herself near the entrance, greeting people as they came in. She wore an emerald gown that made her feel powerful. Her hair was swept up elegantly. She'd never felt more confident. Patricia Hartman arrived with her husband and several executives. Her face lit up when she saw the decor. Grace, this is stunning. You've outdone yourself. I'm so glad you're pleased. Pleased? I'm amazed. This is exactly what we wanted. As guests filled the ballroom, Grace moved through the crowd, ensuring everything ran smoothly. The catering was flawless. The music was perfect. Conversations flowed easily in the welcoming atmosphere. People kept stopping Grace to compliment the event. Business leaders, executives, influential figures in the city. Everyone wanted to know who planned this gala. Grace Caldwell, she said each time, handing out business cards. I work with Morrison Events. Margaret Summers found her midway through the evening. They'd been communicating about the hospital fundraiser, but hadn't met in person since their initial coffee. This is beautiful, Grace. I'm even more confident about our event now. Thank you. I'm excited about your fundraiser. The cause is so important. I've been telling everyone about you. You're going to be busy with referrals. Around 8:30 Ryan arrived. Grace saw him enter with Nicole Foster. Her stomach clenched, but she kept her expression neutral. Ryan looked around the ballroom, clearly surprised by the elegance. Nicole said something to him and they moved toward the bar. Grace refused to let their presence ruin her evening. This was her night. Her success. She wouldn't let Ryan diminish it. Patricia found Grace again around 9. I need to steal you for the toast. I want to publicly thank you. Oh, that's not necessary. It absolutely is. You deserve recognition. Patricia took the microphone from the small stage where the band had been playing. She called for everyone's attention. Good evening, everyone. I want to take a moment to thank you all for being here tonight. Your support of Hartman Industries means everything to our team. Applause rippled through the crowd. I also want to recognize the woman who made tonight possible. Grace Caldwell is the event coordinator who transformed my vague ideas into this stunning reality. Grace, where are you? Grace felt her cheeks warm as people turned to look at her. She raised her hand slightly. Everyone, please join me in thanking Grace for her incredible work. The applause was genuine and enthusiastic. Grace smiled, feeling overwhelmed with emotion. This recognition, in front of hundreds of influential people, was more than she'd hoped for. She caught Ryan's eye across the room. He looked shocked as if seeing her for the first time. Nicole was saying something to him, but his attention was fixed on Grace. After Patricia's toast, people swarmed Grace. Business cards were exchanged. Future events were discussed. She fielded questions about availability and rates. Angela appeared at her side, beaming. You're officially in demand. This is overwhelming. This is success. Enjoy it. The evening continued beautifully. Dinner was served, speeches were made, networking happened naturally. Grace moved through it all with grace and confidence, exactly as she'd planned. Around 11, as the event was winding down, Ryan approached her. He was alone. Nicole must have left. Grace, can we talk? I'm working. Just for a minute? Please. Grace excused herself from the conversation she'd been having with a potential client. She followed Ryan to a quieter corner of the ballroom. This event is amazing, Ryan said. I had no idea you could do something like this. You never asked. I should have. Grace, I've been blind. Watching everyone tonight, seeing how they respect you and value your work, it made me realize I've been taking you for granted. Yes, you have. I want to do better. I want us to do better. Grace looked at her husband. He seemed sincere. But she'd heard apologies before, followed by more of the same behavior. Ryan, where's Nicole? She left about an hour ago. Did she come as your date? No. She asked to attend because several potential investors were here. It was networking. And you didn't think to invite your wife to your networking event? Ryan looked uncomfortable. I didn't think you'd want to come. You've been busy with your own work. I coordinated this entire event. Of course I was going to be here. But you assumed I wouldn't be because you never pay attention to what I'm doing. You're right. I messed up. You keep messing up, Ryan. Over and over. And I'm tired of it. Grace saw Angela signaling from across the room. Something needed her attention. I have to get back to work. This conversation will have to wait. She walked away before Ryan could respond. There was a minor issue with the dessert service that Grace quickly resolved. By the time she looked around again, Ryan was gone. The event concluded at midnight. Grace stayed until the last guest left, making sure cleanup began properly. Angela helped her gather materials and equipment. That was one of the best events we've ever done, Angela said as they loaded items into her car. You should be so proud. I am. Tonight felt like proof that I can do this. Really do this. You're not just good at this. You're exceptional. Did you see how many business cards you collected? Grace pulled the stack from her clutch. At least 30 cards from potential clients. Tonight had opened doors she'd never imagined. She drove home around 1:30 a.m., exhausted but exhilarated. The house was dark when she arrived. Ryan's car was in the garage, but all the lights were off. Grace went upstairs to her room, changed into pajamas and collapsed into bed. Her phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. Thank you again for tonight. You've set a new standard for our events. Sending you a bonus check tomorrow. You earned it. Grace smiled, setting her phone aside. A bonus, recognition, success, all earned through her own hard work and talent. She fell asleep feeling proud and hopeful for the first time in months. Sunday morning, Grace slept late. When she finally woke around 10, she felt pleasantly tired. The kind of tired that came from accomplishment. She went downstairs to find Ryan in the kitchen making coffee. He looked like he hadn't slept well. Morning, he said carefully. Morning. I made enough coffee for both of us. Thanks. They sat at the kitchen island, the silence awkward. Ryan kept starting to speak, then stopping. Just say whatever you're thinking, Grace finally said. Last night made me realize how much I've missed. You've built this whole career and I didn't even notice. I didn't support you. I didn't celebrate your success. I was too focused on my own work to see what you were accomplishing. Yes. And the thing with Nicole. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I genuinely didn't see how it looked. But I understand now. She's interested in more than business, and I was too flattered to recognize it. Grace sipped her coffee. What are you going to do about it? I already told her we need to keep things strictly professional. No more dinners, no more public appearances that look like dates. Our companies can still partner, but the personal aspect stops. And she was okay with that? Not really. But it doesn't matter. You're my wife. You should have always come first. Grace wanted to believe him. Part of her wanted to accept the apology and try again. But another part was cautious. Tired of being hurt. Ryan, I need you to understand something. I'm not going to stop working. My career matters to me. I'm good at what I do and I'm building something real. If you can't support that, if you're going to dismiss it as a hobby or something unimportant, then we have a serious problem. I support it. I do. Seeing you last night, the way people respected you, I felt proud. I should have felt that way all along. You should have. But you made me feel like I was worthless. Like I didn't contribute anything meaningful. Ryan winced. I heard what I said at that gala. The one where you left early. I know what I said about you to Gerald Hughes. Grace's breath caught. You knew I heard that? Not at the time. But later I realized you must have. The timing of when you left. I said terrible things, Grace. Things I didn't even mean. I was showing off, trying to sound successful and in control. But I hurt you. Badly. You called me decoration. Said I was just for show. I was wrong. Completely wrong. You're brilliant and talented. You've been managing the foundation, supporting my career, building your own success. And I acted like none of it mattered. Grace felt tears threatening. Why? Why did you treat me that way? Because I got lost in success. The company grew so fast and I let it consume me. I forgot what was important. I forgot about us. Do you even want to be married anymore? Tell me the truth. Ryan looked directly at her. Yes, I do. I know I've been a terrible husband. I know I've hurt you. But I love you, Grace. I want to fix this. I don't know if it can be fixed. Can we try? Real try, not just words. I'll prove to you that I mean it. Grace set down her coffee cup. I need to think about it. I need time to figure out what I want. Take all the time you need. I'll be here. The rest of Sunday passed quietly. Grace worked on proposals for potential new clients. Ryan worked in his office. They existed in the same space but didn't push for more conversation. Monday morning, Grace went to Angela's office to find flowers on her desk. A massive arrangement of burgundy and gold blooms, matching the gala theme. The card read, "To an extraordinary talent. Thank you for making our event unforgettable. Patricia Hartman." Those came this morning, Angela said, grinning. Along with a check for $5,000. Your bonus. Grace stared at the check. $5,000? You earned it. Patricia said you deserve every penny. Grace sat down at her desk, slightly overwhelmed. In 2 months, she'd gone from invisible housewife to successful event coordinator with major clients and bonuses. Her phone rang. Margaret Summers. Grace, I approved your proposal for the hospital fundraiser. I want to move forward immediately. Can we meet this week to discuss timeline? Absolutely. I'll check my calendar and send you some options. After hanging up, Grace turned to Angela. The hospital fundraiser is confirmed. Angela squealed. That's 3 major events now. Grace, you need your own title. You're not just an event coordinator anymore. You're our director of corporate and charity events. Director? You've earned it. Better title, better pay, more responsibility. What do you say? Grace felt emotion swell. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for taking a chance on this job. You're making the whole company better. The week continued with more success. Grace met with Margaret to finalize hospital fundraiser details. She took calls from 3 new potential clients, all referrals from the Hartman Gala. She worked with Tisha at the community center, celebrating when the teen got accepted into an advanced science program. Her life was full and meaningful. She was making a real difference. At home, Ryan made small efforts. He came home earlier a few nights. He asked about her day and actually listened to the answers. He stopped mentioning Nicole entirely. But Grace remained cautious. Actions over time would prove whether he'd really changed, not just words in a moment of clarity. Friday evening, Grace was reviewing venue options for the hospital fundraiser when Ryan came into her room. She'd noticed he'd been respecting her space, knocking before entering. Can I take you to dinner tomorrow night? He asked. Just the 2 of us. Not business, just us. Grace considered the invitation. Where? That Italian place you love. The one where we had our first date. Marcello's. They hadn't been there in years. Grace had loved that restaurant, but Ryan always wanted to try new trendy places. Okay. Dinner tomorrow. Really? Really? But Ryan, this is one dinner. Not a solution to everything. I understand. One step at a time. Saturday evening, Grace dressed carefully. Not for Ryan but for herself. A beautiful red dress that made her feel confident. Her hair styled in loose curls. Makeup that enhanced her features. When she came downstairs, Ryan was waiting in the foyer. He wore a dark suit, and for a moment she saw the man she'd married. The man who used to look at her like she was his whole world. You look beautiful, he said softly. Thank you. The drive to Marcello's was quiet but not uncomfortable. Ryan opened doors for her, something he used to do regularly but had stopped somewhere along the way. The restaurant was cozy and romantic. They were seated at a corner table with soft candlelight. Grace remembered their first date here, how nervous and excited she'd been. How Ryan had made her laugh all evening. Do you remember what you ordered on our first date? Ryan asked after they'd looked at menus. Chicken marsala. You were so nervous you knocked over your water glass. Grace smiled despite herself. And you pretended you'd done it so I wouldn't feel embarrassed. I wanted to make you feel comfortable. I wanted everything to be perfect because I already knew I was falling in love with you. Grace met his eyes. That feels like a lifetime ago. It doesn't have to. We can find our way back. Can we? We're different people now, Ryan. You've changed. I've changed. Maybe that's okay. Maybe we can fall in love with who we are now instead of who we were then. The waiter took their orders. Grace got the chicken marsala, honoring that first date. Ryan ordered his usual. Tell me about your work, Ryan said when they were alone again. Really, tell me. What do you love about it? Grace talked about event planning. The creativity involved in bringing a vision to life. The satisfaction of creating experiences that mattered. The relationships she built with clients. The impact of working on charity events that raised money for important causes. Ryan listened, asking questions, showing genuine interest. It felt good to be heard. I'm proud of you, he said. I should have said that months ago. Years ago. But I'm saying it now. You're amazing at what you do. Thank you. My mother called me again. She told me I was being an idiot. That I was about to lose the best thing in my life. Your mother is wise. She is. She told me about when she and my dad almost divorced. I never knew how close they came to ending things. But they fought for their marriage. They made it work. They were both willing to try. Both willing to change. I'm willing, Grace. I know I've said that before, but I mean it this time. I'll do whatever it takes. Their food arrived. They ate and talked about easier topics. Memories from early in their relationship. Funny stories from before success complicated everything. For a few hours, it felt like they were just Grace and Ryan again. Two people who'd once loved each other deeply. Driving home, Grace felt confused. The evening had been nice. Ryan had been attentive and kind. But was one good dinner enough to fix years of neglect? At home, Ryan walked her to her guest room door like they were teenagers after a date. Thank you for tonight, he said. Thank you for asking. Can we do it again? Keep trying? Grace looked at her husband. She saw remorse in his eyes. Genuine desire to repair what he'd broken. But she also remembered the pain of months of being ignored. Of being called decorative and unimportant. I need you to understand something, Grace said carefully. I'm not the same woman you married. I'm stronger now. More independent. I have my own career and my own life. If we're going to make this work, it has to be as equals. Partners. Not you tolerating my little hobby while you do important work. I understand. I want you exactly as you are now. Strong and successful and independent. Actions, Ryan. Not just words. Show me you mean it. I will. Every day I'll show you. They stood in the hallway, the space between them feeling smaller than it had in months. Grace wanted to believe him. Wanted to hope their marriage could be saved. But hope was dangerous when you've been disappointed so many times. Good night, Ryan. Good night, Grace. She closed her door and leaned against it. Her heart was torn between wanting to forgive and being afraid to trust again. Only time would tell if Ryan's change was real or temporary. Only time would show if their marriage could be rebuilt. But for tonight, Grace would hold on to the small spark of possibility. The tiny hope that maybe, just maybe, they could find their way back to each other. Over the next 2 weeks, Ryan continued making efforts. He came home for dinner more often. He asked about Grace's work and listened to her answers. He stopped working on weekends unless absolutely necessary. Small changes but consistent. Grace remained cautiously optimistic. She didn't trust completely, but she acknowledged the attempts. Her own career continued flourishing. 3 new clients signed contracts. The hospital fundraiser planning was in full swing. Margaret Summers praised Grace's work at every meeting. The event was scheduled for 6 weeks out, and Grace was determined to make it even better than the Hartman Gala. At the community center, the mentorship program expanded. 5 more teens were paired with professionals. Tisha was thriving, talking about college applications and her future in medicine. Dorothy pulled Grace aside after one session. "You're changing lives here. These kids see themselves differently because someone believed in them. The mentors are doing the real work. You made the matches. You created the structure. Don't diminish your contribution." Grace was learning to accept praise, to recognize her own value. Felt good. One Wednesday afternoon, Grace was at the venue for the hospital fundraiser doing measurements when her phone rang. Helen Caldwell. "Grace, do you have time to talk?" "Of course. Is everything all right? I need to tell you something. Can you meet me for coffee?" They arranged to meet in an hour. Grace finished her work at the venue and drove to the cafe where they'd met before. Helen was already there, looking serious. Grace's stomach tightened with worry. "What's wrong?" Grace asked, sitting down. "I need to tell you about the foundation. The Caldwell Foundation that supports local charities." "What about it?" Helen pulled out a folder. "Ryan's been taking credit for the foundation's work for 5 years. In every interview, every event, every business profile, he talks about his charitable giving and community involvement." "I know. That's normal for CEOs. But Grace, you're the one actually running it." "I looked into the foundation's operations. Every grant decision, every program funded, every community initiative. That's all you. Ryan signs the checks, but you do everything else." Grace didn't deny it. "I help manage it, yes." "Help? You created the entire strategy. I found the original proposal you wrote 3 years ago. The framework for focusing on education and youth programs. That was your vision. But Ryan presents it like it's his work." "I never wanted credit. I just wanted the foundation to help people. And it has. You've funded scholarships for over 200 students. You've supported after-school programs in 6 communities. You've provided technology grants to schools in underserved areas. That's real impact, Grace. Impact you should get credit for." "Why are you telling me this?" Helen leaned forward. "Because Ryan needs to see what he's been taking for granted. He needs to understand that his success isn't just his. You've been supporting him in ways he doesn't even recognize. The foundation work makes him look good, gives him credibility in the community. But it's your work, your time, your expertise." Grace felt emotions swirling. Pride in what she'd accomplished through the foundation. Frustration that Ryan never acknowledged it. Sadness that even her charitable work was invisible to her husband. "What do you want me to do with this information?" "Tell Ryan. Make him see that you've been contributing to his success all along. Not just showing up at events looking pretty, but doing real, meaningful work that benefits his reputation and his company." Grace took the folder Helen offered. Inside were documents showing the foundation's growth over 5 years. Programs funded. Impact achieved. All coordinated by Grace while Ryan took public credit. "He probably doesn't even realize," Grace said quietly. "He's so focused on the company that he likely forgot I run the foundation day to day. That's the problem. You should realize. You should know what his wife does and value it. How can you have a partnership when one person doesn't even see the other person's contributions?" After coffee, Grace drove home with the folder on the passenger seat. The documents felt heavy with meaning. Years of work she'd done without recognition or thanks. She found Ryan in his office on a video call. He saw her and held up a finger. Grace shook her head and gestured that she'd wait. She went to the kitchen and made tea, thinking about how to approach this conversation. When Ryan finally appeared, Grace was sitting at the kitchen table with the folder open in front of her. "What's all that?" he asked. "The Caldwell Foundation records. Your mother gave them to me." Ryan looked confused. "Why?" "Sit down, Ryan." Something in her tone made him comply. Grace pushed the documents across the table. "Do you know what these show? Foundation financials? Impact reports. Over 5 years of grants, programs, and community initiatives. All managed by me." Ryan picked up a few pages, scanning them. "You've been helping with the foundation." "I know that." "Helping?" "Ryan, I created the entire strategy. I evaluate every grant application. I visit programs to ensure money is being used effectively. I coordinate with schools and community centers. I prepare the annual reports. The foundation is my work. I didn't realize you did all that. You didn't realize because you never asked. But you've been taking credit for it publicly for years. Every time you do an interview or give a speech, you talk about your charitable work, your community involvement, your foundation. But it's not yours. It's mine. Ryan set down the papers, looking uncomfortable. I appreciate everything you've done with the foundation. Do you? Because you've never once thanked me for it. Never acknowledged my work. You just let people assume you're the one making it happen. The money comes from my company. The money, yes. But money alone doesn't create impact. Someone has to decide how to use it, who to support, what programs make sense. That's all me, Ryan. My time, my effort, my expertise. And you don't even see it. You're right. I should have recognized your work. You should have. But more than that, you should have been curious. You should have asked questions. Wanted to know how the foundation was doing. But you treated it like something that just happened automatically, like the landscaping service or house cleaning. Ryan ran a hand over his face. I've been taking you for granted in more ways than I realized. Yes, you have. And here's what really bothers me. All this time you've been telling me that I don't contribute meaningfully, that I'm just for show. But I've been supporting your success in ways you didn't even notice. The foundation makes you look good, Ryan. It gives you credibility. Business leaders respect charitable involvement. You've gotten deals because people view you as community-minded. That's partly because of foundation work I've been doing. The truth of it settled between them. Ryan looked at the documents again, really seeing them this time. I'm sorry, Grace. You're absolutely right. I've been blind and selfish. Sorry isn't enough anymore. I need you to actually value what I do. Not just the foundation work, but my event planning career. My volunteer work. Everything. I need you to see me as an equal partner who contributes just as much as you do, just in different ways. I do see that now. Now, after your mother showed me these documents and forced you to confront the truth. But you should have seen it all along. Ryan stood up, pacing the kitchen. What do you want me to do? How do I fix this? Start by being honest publicly. The next time someone asks about the foundation, give me credit. Actually acknowledge that it's my work. And going forward, be involved. Know what we're funding and why. Be a partner in it instead of just the name on the checks. I can do that. And respect my career. My event planning work is just as important as your tech company. Different but equally valid. I'm building something meaningful, and I need you to support it genuinely, not just tolerate it. I will. I promise. Grace stood, gathering the documents. I'm going to hold you to that. No more empty promises. I need to see real change sustained over time. Can you do that? Yes. I'll prove it to you. Good. Because I'm done being invisible in my own marriage. Grace left the kitchen, taking the folder with her. She felt emotionally exhausted but also empowered. She'd stood up for herself. Made clear what she needed. Now it was up to Ryan to follow through. The next day Ryan surprised her. He posted on social media, something he rarely did for personal matters. I want to publicly acknowledge my wife, Grace, who manages the Caldwell Foundation. Her vision and dedication have made real impact in our community. Over 200 students have received scholarships through her work. Programs supporting youth and education have been funded because of her strategic thinking. I'm proud to support her efforts, but the credit belongs to her. Thank you, Grace, for the work you do. Grace saw the post when Angela texted her a screenshot. Did you see this? She pulled up Ryan's profile. The post had dozens of comments already. People congratulating Ryan for being supportive. People praising Grace's work. People saying they didn't know she ran the foundation. It was a small thing, but it mattered. Public acknowledgement that she contributed meaningfully. Her phone rang. Ryan. Did you see the post? I did. Thank you. It's just a start. I want to do more. Can we have dinner tonight and talk about the foundation? I want to understand everything you've been doing. Okay. Dinner at home. I'll cook. That evening, Grace made pasta while Ryan asked questions about the foundation, which programs they funded, how she evaluated applications, what impact they were seeing. He took notes, genuinely engaged. This is impressive work, Grace. Why didn't you ever tell me about all this? I tried early on, but you were always too busy to listen. Eventually, I stopped trying. That's on me. I should have made time. They ate dinner and continued talking. Ryan asked about her event planning work, the hospital fundraiser, her timeline and vision. He showed real interest, not just polite conversation. After dinner, they sat in the living room with coffee. The conversation felt natural in a way it hadn't in years. "My mother told me something else," Ryan said, "about how she and my dad almost divorced. She said the turning point was when my dad realized he built a successful business but lost his family in the process. He had to decide what actually mattered." What did he choose? Family. He restructured his work schedule, delegated more, made time for what mattered. It wasn't easy and it didn't happen overnight. But he chose to prioritize their marriage. "And you?" Grace asked. "What are you choosing?" Ryan set down his coffee cup, looking directly at her. "You." "I'm choosing our marriage. I don't want to be like my dad was, realizing too late what I was losing." "That's good to hear. But Ryan, choosing our marriage means real changes. Not just being home for dinner a few times. I mean fundamental shifts in how you approach life and work." "I know. I'm willing to do that." "Are you? Because your company is your identity. Can you really step back from that?" "I have to. What's the point of building an empire if I lose everything that actually matters?" Grace wanted to believe him. But belief required seeing sustained change, not just good intentions. "Let's take this slow," she said. "Keep making efforts. Keep showing me you mean it. And maybe, over time, we can rebuild what we lost." "I'll take slow. As long as there's hope." "There's hope. Fragile but there." Ryan smiled, genuine and warm. Grace saw a glimpse of the man she'd married. The man who'd made her laugh and feel loved. Maybe that man wasn't completely gone. Maybe he could find his way back. Over the following weeks, Ryan continued making changes. He attended one of Grace's events, the launch party for a new nonprofit. He stayed the whole time, talking to guests, supporting Grace visibly. He started having lunch with Grace once a week, putting it on his calendar like any other important meeting. They talked about work, life, their relationship. Rebuilding communication. He met with Dorothy at the community center, learning about the mentorship program. He offered to sponsor 2 additional pairings, providing financial support for activities and resources. He attended couples counseling with Grace, something she'd suggested and he'd agreed to immediately. The therapist helped them communicate better, understand each other's needs, work through years of hurt and distance. It wasn't perfect. There were setbacks and difficult conversations. But the trajectory was positive. They were trying, both of them genuinely trying. Grace felt cautious optimism growing into something stronger. Maybe hope. Maybe even the beginning of trust again. Her career continued flourishing. The hospital fundraiser was 2 weeks away and everything was on track. Margaret Summers called regularly to express excitement about the event. Grace's life was full and meaningful. She had work she loved, people who valued her, a husband who was finally making real efforts. Things were changing. Slowly, carefully, but genuinely changing. And Grace was learning that she didn't need Ryan's validation to have worth. She had her own value, independent of his recognition. But it felt good to be seen by him again. To be valued. To be loved. Maybe they could build something new. Not the marriage they'd had before, but something better. Something built on mutual respect and genuine partnership. It would take time. But Grace had learned patience. Learned that real change happened slowly. And she was willing to give their marriage that time. Because underneath everything, she still loved him. And now, finally, he was showing her that he loved her too. The Sterling Heights Winter Gala was approaching. This was the same event where, 9 months ago, Grace had overheard Ryan's dismissive comments. The event that had catalyzed her transformation. Now she was returning as the lead event coordinator. The planning committee had hired Morrison Events to handle the gala, specifically requesting Grace. The irony wasn't lost on her. Last year she'd attended as Ryan's invisible wife. This year she was the one making everything happen. Grace threw herself into preparations. The Winter Gala was the biggest social event of the season. 500 guests, including city leaders, business executives, philanthropists. Everything had to be perfect. She chose a winter wonderland theme, but elegant rather than kitschy. Silver and ice blue color scheme. Crystal accents. Soft white lighting that would make the ballroom glow. Live ice sculptures. A menu featuring sophisticated seasonal dishes. Ryan learned about her role when the invitation arrived. His name was on the guest list as a donor and board member. Grace's name was listed as the event coordinator. "You're running the Winter Gala?" he asked, finding Grace reviewing vendor contracts in her room. "Yes. The committee hired me 2 months ago." "That's the event where?" He trailed off, clearly remembering. "Where you called me decorative and useless." "Yes. Same event." Ryan winced. "Grace, I'm sorry." Again. I know I keep apologizing, but I am so deeply sorry for those words. I know. And I've mostly forgiven you. But this event is important to me for obvious reasons. I want to prove something. To myself and to everyone who was there that night. You don't have to prove anything. Everyone already knows how talented you are. Maybe. But I need this. I need to walk into that ballroom as the coordinator, not the invisible wife. I need people to see me differently. They will. I'll make sure of it. The weeks before the gala were intense. Grace coordinated with dozens of vendors. She managed the timeline with precision. She handled guest list issues and seating arrangements. Every detail received her attention. Angela watched her work with admiration. You're in your element. This is going to be incredible. It has to be. This event matters more than any other. Because of Ryan? Because of me. Last year I felt worthless at this gala. This year I want to feel proud. 5 days before the event, Grace got an unexpected call. Nicole Foster. Grace? This is Nicole Foster. I hope I'm not overstepping by calling. Grace's guard went up immediately. What can I do for you? I wanted to apologize. For my behavior these past months. I knew Ryan was married, but I pursued him anyway. That was wrong. Grace hadn't expected this. Why are you telling me this now? Because Ryan made it clear that his marriage is his priority. He ended our personal connection and I respected that. But I feel like I owe you an apology. I was opportunistic and inappropriate. Thank you for saying that. Ryan loves you. That was obvious to everyone except apparently Ryan himself for a while. He talks about you differently now. With pride and respect. I hope you two work things out. After hanging up, Grace felt oddly relieved. Nicole's apology felt genuine. And hearing that Ryan spoke about her with pride meant something. The day before the gala, Grace did a final venue walkthrough. The ballroom was being transformed according to her vision. Silver fabric draped elegantly. Crystal chandeliers sparkled. The space looked magical. Ryan appeared halfway through her walkthrough. She was surprised to see him. What are you doing here? I wanted to see what you've created. Is that okay? Of course. He walked through the space slowly, taking in every detail. Grace watched his face, seeing genuine appreciation. This is beautiful, Grace. Stunning. You have such an incredible eye for this. Thank you. Tomorrow night, everyone's going to see what I should have seen years ago. That you're extraordinary. Grace felt emotion swell. I hope so. They will. I promise you they will. That evening, Grace prepared everything for the next day. Her dress was ready, a stunning emerald green gown that made her feel powerful. Her hair appointment was scheduled. Every detail of the event was confirmed and reconfirmed. She felt nervous but excited. Tomorrow was important. A full circle moment. A chance to rewrite the narrative. Ryan found her in her room as she was reviewing final checklists. Can I ask you something? Sure. Will you let me escort you tomorrow? Not as your date exactly. But as your husband supporting your success. I want people to see us together, see me being proud of you. Grace considered the request. Part of her wanted to walk in alone, completely independent. But another part wanted Ryan beside her, publicly supporting her. Okay. We can arrive together. Thank you. I know I haven't earned the right to stand beside you yet. But I'm trying. I know you are. The day of the winter gala arrived bright and cold. Grace spent the morning at the venue, overseeing final setup. Everything came together perfectly. The ice sculptures were being delivered. The catering staff prepared in the kitchen. The band set up on stage. Angela arrived around noon, surveying the space with delight. Grace, this is your masterpiece. Better than Hartman. Better than anything we've done. I wanted it to be special. It's more than special. It's extraordinary. Grace went home mid-afternoon to get ready. She took a long bath, did her makeup carefully, styled her hair in elegant waves. The emerald gown fit perfectly, the color vibrant against her brown skin. When she came downstairs, Ryan was waiting in a sharp dark suit. His expression when he saw her was everything. You look absolutely stunning. Thank you. You look nice too. They drove to the venue together. Grace felt butterflies in her stomach. This was it. The moment she'd been working toward. They arrived an hour before guests. Grace did a final walkthrough, checking every detail. The ballroom looked like a winter dream. Perfect. You did this, Angela said, appearing beside her. All of this. You should be so proud. I am. For the first time in a long time, I'm really proud of myself. Guests began arriving at 7. Grace positioned herself near the entrance, greeting people with confidence. She wore her event coordinator badge proudly. People recognized her immediately. Grace Caldwell? You organized this event. I did. Welcome. Again and again the same reaction. Surprise, then admiration. Grace accepted compliments graciously, feeling her confidence grow with each interaction. Ryan stayed nearby but not hovering, supporting her presence without overshadowing. When people talked to him, he redirected praise to Grace. My wife coordinated everything. She's the talent behind this event. Patricia Hartman arrived with her husband. She hugged Grace warmly. I've been telling everyone about you. At least 5 people here tonight specifically asked if you were available for their events. That's wonderful. Thank you for the referrals. You earned them. Your work speaks for itself. As the ballroom filled, Grace felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Last year she'd been invisible here. This year she was the person everyone wanted to talk to. The event began officially at 8. Speeches were made, toasting the season and thanking donors. Then the planning committee chair took the microphone. I want to take a moment to recognize someone special. Grace Caldwell, our event coordinator, transformed our vision into this stunning reality. Grace, please come up here. Grace walked to the small stage, heart pounding. The applause was genuine and enthusiastic. Thank you all for being here tonight. It's been an honor to create this event for such an important cause. I hope you enjoy the evening. Short and simple, but the applause continued. Grace returned to where Ryan stood and he squeezed her hand. You did it. Everyone sees you now. They do. The evening continued beautifully. Dinner was served perfectly. Entertainment delighted guests. People danced and mingled and celebrated. Everything Grace had planned worked flawlessly. Around 10 o'clock, Grace took a moment to stand at the edge of the ballroom, just observing. The space she'd created. The event she'd coordinated. The success she'd earned. She thought about last year. Standing in almost the same spot, feeling worthless and invisible. How much had changed in 9 months? She'd found herself again. Built a career. Proven her worth, not to Ryan or anyone else but to herself. Ryan appeared beside her, 2 champagne glasses in hand. He offered her one. To you, he said softly. To your incredible talent and the amazing woman you've always been. Grace touched her glass to his. To second chances. They stood together, watching the party they'd both contributed to in their own ways. His financial support as a donor. Her creative vision as the coordinator. Maybe that was what partnership could look like. Both people bringing their strengths, supporting each other, building something together. Grace. Ryan said after a moment. Yes. I love you. I know I haven't shown it well. But I do. I love you. Grace looked at her husband. She saw genuine emotion in his eyes. Real love, not just words. I love you too, she said. I never stopped. But love isn't enough without respect and effort. I know. I'm giving you both now. And I'll keep giving them. Then maybe we have a real chance. I think we do. They stayed at the gala until midnight when the event officially ended. Grace supervised cleanup beginning, making sure everything was handled properly. Driving home, she felt exhausted but satisfied. The event had been a triumph. Every goal she'd set had been achieved. Are you happy? Ryan asked as they pulled into their driveway. Grace considered the question. Yes, I think I am. For the first time in years, I'm genuinely happy. Good. You deserve to be. They walked into their house together. Not to separate rooms anymore but to a shared space. Small steps toward rebuilding what they'd lost. Grace knew challenges remained. Trust would take time to rebuild completely. Patterns took effort to change. But they were trying, both of them genuinely trying. And that was enough for now. Enough to hope. Enough to believe they could make it. Enough to start again. 3 weeks after the Winter Gala, the Sterling Heights Spring Benefit was announced. This was an even larger event, celebrating the city's charitable contributions over the year. The planning committee specifically requested Grace as the coordinator. The offer came with a substantial budget and high expectations. This would be her biggest project yet. Grace accepted immediately. She had 6 weeks to plan and execute everything. It would be intense, but she thrived under that kind of pressure now. Ryan's reaction to her acceptance was supportive. That's incredible. When do you start planning? Immediately. This is a major opportunity. What can I do to help? Just keep being supportive. Keep showing up. That's what I need. Over the next weeks, Grace dove into preparations. The spring benefit theme was renewal and growth. She chose a garden-inspired design with fresh flowers, green accents and natural elements. The ballroom would feel like stepping into an elegant spring garden. Her relationship with Ryan continued improving. They had dinner together most evenings. They talked about their days, really talked. They attended counseling weekly, working through old hurts and building better communication patterns. Ryan made efforts that showed he understood what mattered. He attended Tish's science fair at the community center, seeing firsthand the impact of the mentorship program. He volunteered at a foundation event, actually participating instead of just writing checks. He asked questions about Grace's work and listened to the answers. Trust was slowly rebuilding. Grace still had moments of doubt, old wounds that ached. But Ryan was patient, consistent in his efforts. One evening, about 2 weeks before the spring benefit, they were having dinner when Ryan brought up a topic Grace hadn't expected. "I've been thinking about the company. About work-life balance." "What about it?" "I've been working with a business consultant. We're restructuring so I can delegate more. I want to step back from day-to-day operations and focus on strategic vision. It means I'll have more time for things that matter." Grace set down her fork. "Like what?" "Like you. Like us. Like being a real partner instead of just a husband in name. I've been so consumed with building the company that I forgot to build our life." "That's a big change." "It is. But it's necessary. What's the point of success if I'm alone at the top? I want to share my life with you, Grace. Really share it." Grace felt emotion swell. This was more than small efforts. This was fundamental change. "What brought this on?" "The gala. Watching you coordinate that event, seeing how people responded to you, it made me realize something. You've been building your own success while I was obsessed with mine. And you're happier now than you were when you were just supporting me. I want to support you the way you supported me. But more than that, I want to find balance. I want a life, not just a career." "Are you sure? Your company is your identity." "No. My company is what I do. You're who I am. Or who I want to be. Your husband. Your partner. That's the identity that matters." Grace reached across the table, taking his hand. "I want that too. I've wanted it for so long." "Then let's build it. Together. Really together this time." They talked late into the night about what partnership would look like. Ryan's restructuring timeline. Grace's career growth. How they'd support each other's goals while maintaining their relationship. Felt like a new beginning. Not going back to who they were before, but creating something better. The days before the spring benefit flew by. Grace coordinated every detail with her usual precision. The event would be stunning, she was confident of that. The day before the event, Margaret Summers called with exciting news. "Grace, the hospital fundraiser you coordinated raised over $800,000. That's double what we projected. Your work made that possible." "That's wonderful. Those funds will make such a difference." "They will. And I want you to know that I've recommended you to the Children's Health Foundation. They're planning a gala in the fall and specifically asked for you." After hanging up, Grace felt pride surge through her. Her work was making real impact. She was building a reputation based on excellence and results. Angela congratulated her when she shared the news. "You're becoming the go-to coordinator for major charity events. That's exactly the niche we discussed. It feels good. Like I'm doing something that matters." "You are. Never doubt that." The night of the spring benefit arrived. Grace wore an emerald gown, the same one from the winter gala. It felt like her power dress now, her symbol of success. Ryan arrived at the venue with her. They'd been working together more seamlessly lately. He understood her career demands and supported them actively. The ballroom transformation was complete. The garden theme was stunning, fresh and elegant. White flowers everywhere. Green vines wrapped around columns. Soft lighting that felt like gentle sunlight. It was magical. Guests arrived to audible gasps of delight. "This is incredible. Who did this?" "Grace Caldwell, she's the coordinator." Grace's name circulated through the crowd, always with admiration and respect. She moved through the event with confidence, greeting guests, checking details, ensuring everything ran smoothly. Ryan stayed nearby, proud and supportive. When people talked to him, he consistently redirected conversation to Grace's achievement. "Have you seen what my wife created here? She's extraordinarily talented." Around 9 o'clock, during the formal program, the benefit committee chair made an announcement. "Tonight, we celebrate the generous donors and volunteers who make our city's charitable work possible. But I want to take a special moment to recognize someone whose work has elevated every event she touches. Grace Caldwell has coordinated 3 major galas this year, each raising record funds for important causes. Her creativity, professionalism, and dedication to meaningful work deserve recognition. Grace, please come up here. Grace walked to the stage, surprised and touched. The applause was warm and genuine. Thank you. I'm honored to do this work. Every event I coordinate is about more than beautiful spaces or elegant dinners. It's about bringing people together for causes that matter, raising funds that change lives. That's what makes this work meaningful. Thank you all for trusting me with your events. As she returned to her seat, Ryan stood and hugged her. I'm so proud of you. Do you know that? So incredibly proud. I do. Thank you for being here. I'll always be here. From now on, I'll always be here. The evening continued successfully. Entertainment delighted guests. Donations exceeded projections. Everything Grace had planned worked perfectly. Around 11, Grace stepped out onto the venue's terrace for a moment of quiet. The event was nearly over, another success to add to her growing list. Ryan found her there, bringing her a glass of champagne. Taking a break? Just catching my breath. It's been intense. You make it look easy. But I know how much work goes into each of these events. They stood together, looking out at the city lights. Grace felt contentment settle over her. Her life was full and meaningful. Her marriage was healing. She was happy. Grace, Ryan said after a moment. I have something to ask you. Or maybe something to tell you. I'm not sure which. Grace turned to face him. What is it? These past months, watching you build your career, seeing you find yourself again, it's made me realize something. I don't want to just be married to you. I want to be worthy of being married to you. Ryan, let me finish. I've been a terrible husband. Neglectful, dismissive, blind to what mattered. You deserved so much better. You still deserve better. But I want to be better. I want to earn the privilege of being your partner. Grace felt tears threaten. You're doing that. You've been trying so hard. I want to do more. I want to recommit to our marriage. Really commit. Not just words or temporary efforts, but a genuine dedication to being the husband you deserve. Ryan pulled a small box from his jacket pocket. Opening it, Grace saw a ring. Not an engagement ring, but a band with emeralds and diamonds. This is a promise. That I see you. That I value you. That I'm choosing you every day, not just today but for the rest of our lives. Grace, will you give me another chance? Will you let me prove that I can be the partner you need? Grace looked at the ring, then at Ryan's face. She saw love there. Real, genuine love. And more importantly, she saw commitment and understanding. Yes, she said softly. Yes, I'll give you another chance. Give us another chance. Ryan slipped the ring onto her right hand, next to her wedding band. Thank you. I won't waste this opportunity. I promise you that. They kissed, tender and full of possibility. When they pulled apart, Grace was smiling through tears. We're really doing this. Starting over. Not starting over. Moving forward. Building something better than before. They went back inside together. The event was winding down, guests beginning to leave. Grace supervised the start of cleanup, but her mind was partly elsewhere. She and Ryan were rebuilding their marriage. Really rebuilding it. With honesty and effort from both sides. It wouldn't be perfect. There would still be challenges and difficult moments. But they were committed. Both of them genuinely committed. And that made all the difference. Driving home that night, Grace looked at the ring on her finger. A symbol of recommitment. Of second chances. Of love that had survived neglect and distance to find its way back. Are you happy? Ryan asked again, the same question he'd asked months ago. This time, Grace's answer was immediate and certain. Yes, I'm happy. Really, truly happy. Good. That's all I want. Your happiness. I want yours too. We both deserve to be happy. Then let's make sure we are. Together. They arrived home to the mansion that had felt cold and empty for so long. But tonight it felt different. Warmer. Like a real home. They went inside together, not to separate rooms but to their shared space. Small steps that felt monumental. Grace changed out of her gown and looked at herself in the mirror. She saw a woman who was strong and successful. A woman who knew her worth. A woman who'd found herself again after being lost for so long. And beside her, supporting her, was a man who finally understood what he had. Who valued her. Who chose her. It was enough. More than enough. It was everything. 6 months after the spring benefit, Grace stood in the same community center where Dorothy had first encouraged her to reclaim herself. Today was special. The mentorship program was celebrating its 1-year anniversary. 15 teens had been paired with professionals. Success stories abounded. Tisha had been accepted to a prestigious university with a full scholarship. 2 other teens had secured internships in their fields of interest. Lives were changing. Dorothy stood beside Grace as they watched the celebration. Parents, mentors, and teens mingled, sharing food and stories. "You did this," Dorothy said. "You created something that's transforming lives. We all did it together. But you had the vision. You made the connections. You believed these kids deserved opportunities and you made those opportunities happen." Grace felt pride and gratitude swell inside her. This work mattered. It changed lives in tangible ways. Ryan appeared, carrying 2 cups of punch. He'd been talking with Dr. Kennedy and Tisha, hearing about her college plans. "That young woman is going to be an amazing doctor," he said, handing Grace a cup. "She's so focused and determined. She just needed someone to believe in her. Like you did. You saw her potential when she couldn't see it herself." The celebration continued with speeches from several teens. Each one thanked their mentor and the program for changing their perspectives on what was possible. When Tisha spoke, her voice was strong and clear. "A year ago, I didn't think I was smart enough for college. I definitely didn't think I could be a doctor. But Mrs. Caldwell believed in me. She paired me with Dr. Kennedy, who showed me that my dreams were possible. Now I'm going to university to study medicine. I'm going to be a doctor. Because someone believed I could." Grace wiped tears from her eyes. This was impact. Real, meaningful impact. After the celebration, Grace and Ryan drove to their favorite restaurant. The Italian place where they'd had their first date and their reconciliation dinner. Over pasta, they talked about the mentorship program, Grace's upcoming events, Ryan's company restructuring that was going well. Their conversation was easy, comfortable. Like old friends who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. Which, in many ways, they were becoming again. "I have news," Ryan said as they were finishing dinner. "Good news?" "I think so. I was approached about speaking at a business conference. They want me to talk about work-life balance and the importance of partnership and success." Grace smiled. "That's perfect for you. What are you going to say?" "The truth. That I nearly destroyed my marriage by prioritizing work over everything else. That my wife's success and happiness matter as much as my own. That real success isn't just financial, it's having a life worth living." "That's honest. It needs to be. If I can help even one person avoid the mistakes I made, it's worth being vulnerable." They held hands across the table, a simple gesture that meant everything. Connection. Affection. Partnership. The next week, Grace coordinated another major event. This one was for the Children's Health Foundation, the referral from Margaret Summers. 500 guests, massive fundraising goals. Ryan attended as her supporter, not just a donor. He helped with last-minute details. He greeted guests beside her. He publicly praised her work. "My wife organized this entire event," he told anyone who asked. "She's the most talented event coordinator in the city. I'm lucky she married me." The event raised over $1 million. Grace's work was directly responsible for that success. Her vision, her coordination, her ability to create meaningful experiences that inspired generosity. After the event, the foundation director offered Grace an ongoing position as their director of special events. A permanent role coordinating all their major fundraisers. Grace accepted gratefully. It was the perfect position, combining her love of event planning with work that made a real difference. Angela celebrated with her, genuinely happy for Grace's success even though it meant she'd be leaving Morrison Events. "You've outgrown what I can offer," Angela said without resentment. "This is where you're meant to be. Doing work that changes lives. I couldn't have done any of this without you. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You just needed a chance to remember who you were. I'm glad I could give you that." At home, Ryan suggested they celebrate Grace's new position properly. He planned an entire evening, her favorite restaurant, a show she'd been wanting to see, a late-night walk through the park where they used to spend time early in their relationship. "This is your success," he said as they walked hand in hand through the autumn leaves. "Your achievement. I want to celebrate you. Thank you. For supporting me. For seeing me. Always. From now on, always." They sat on their favorite bench, the one where Ryan had proposed years ago. The memory felt distant but also present, connecting who they'd been with who they were becoming. "Do you remember proposing here?" Grace asked. "Of course. I was terrified you'd say no. I didn't hesitate. I knew you were the person I wanted to spend my life with. Do you still feel that way? After everything?" Grace considered the question honestly. "Yes, but differently now. Back then I loved who you were. Now I love who we're becoming." We're building something stronger because we've worked for it. I agree. Our marriage is better now than it ever was before. More honest. More equal. More real. They stayed in the park until late, talking about everything and nothing. Making plans for the future. Discussing dreams and goals. Being together without pressure or pretense. Driving home, Grace felt deep contentment. Her life was full of meaning. Work she loved. Marriage that fulfilled her. Purpose that drove her. She'd found herself again. Not by leaving Ryan or giving up on their marriage, but by refusing to remain invisible. By building her own identity and demanding respect. And Ryan had risen to meet her. Not perfectly, not without effort, but genuinely. He changed because he chose to, because he recognized what mattered. 3 months later, Grace and Ryan attended the Sterling Heights Winter Gala again. This time, Grace wasn't coordinating. She was simply attending with her husband. But everything was different from that night almost 2 years ago when their marriage had been crumbling. They arrived together, Ryan's hand on her back as they entered. People greeted them warmly, congratulating Grace on her new position and Ryan on his company's success. Grace wore the same emerald gown that had become her signature. Ryan wore a dark suit and looked at his wife with visible pride and affection. They danced together during the evening, holding each other close. Grace rested her head on Ryan's shoulder, feeling safe and loved. "Are you happy?" Ryan whispered, the question that had become their touchstone. "Yes. Completely happy. Me too. Because of you. Because of us. We both did this." The gala continued around them, but in that moment, Grace was focused only on her husband. The man who'd forgotten her and then fought to remember. The man who'd taken her for granted and then learned to value her. The man who'd nearly lost everything and then chose to change. They weren't perfect. No marriage was. But they were committed. They were partners. They were building a life together based on mutual respect and genuine love. Later that evening, back home, Grace and Ryan sat in their living room with tea. They'd started a new tradition of ending each day together, talking about what happened, sharing their thoughts. "I was thinking about something," Ryan said. "About that night 2 years ago. When you overheard me at the gala. What about it? I'm grateful for it now. Not that I said those terrible things, but that you heard them. Because it was the catalyst for change. If you'd never known, you might have stayed invisible forever. We might have drifted until there was nothing left. I'm grateful too. Not for the hurt, but for what came after. I found myself again. We found each other again. Do you think we would have made it if you hadn't started working? If you'd stayed the way things were?" Grace considered honestly. "No, I don't think so. I was disappearing. Eventually, I would have completely lost myself. The marriage would have been a shell. So your career saved our marriage. My identity saved our marriage. The career was just part of that. I needed to be someone again, not just your wife. You were always someone. I just couldn't see it. But I'd forgotten too. I'd made myself so small trying to fit into your life that I lost track of who I was. The career reminded me. Gave me back my sense of self." Ryan took her hand. "I'm sorry I made you feel you had to be small. That was never what I wanted. I know. You got lost in success. I got lost in supporting you. We both forgot what mattered. We won't forget again. No, we won't." They sat together in comfortable silence, sipping tea and simply being present with each other. This was what marriage should be. Partnership. Comfort. Mutual support. Grace thought about the journey she'd taken. From invisible wife to successful career woman. From broken marriage to healing partnership. It hadn't been easy. There had been pain and doubt and hard conversations. But she'd never given up. On herself or on the possibility of love. And Ryan had met her effort with his own. He changed, genuinely changed. Not because she demanded it, but because he recognized what he was losing and chose to fight for it. Now they had something better than before. A marriage built on truth and respect. A partnership that valued both people equally. Grace's phone buzzed with a text from Angela. "Dinner this weekend? I want to hear about everything." Grace smiled, typing back a quick yes. She had so much to be grateful for. Friends who supported her. Work that fulfilled her. A husband who finally saw her. "What are you smiling about?" Ryan asked. "Everything. Just everything. I'm happy, Ryan. Really, truly happy." "Good. That's all I ever want. Your happiness. I want yours too. We both deserve it. We do. And we have it. Together." They finished their tea and went upstairs to their shared bedroom. Not separate rooms anymore. Not distance and coldness. Just two people who loved each other, rebuilding their life one day at a time. Grace got ready for bed, looking at herself in the mirror. She saw a woman who was strong and confident. A woman who knew her worth. A woman who'd fought for herself and won. And beside her, reflected in the mirror, was Ryan, supporting her, loving her, being the partner she deserved. It was enough. More than enough. It was everything she'd ever wanted. As Grace climbed into bed beside her husband, she felt profound gratitude. For second chances. For growth. For love that survived being tested. Their marriage wasn't perfect. It would never be perfect. But it was real and honest and built on mutual respect. And that was worth more than any fairy tale. "I love you," Ryan said, wrapping his arm around her. "I love you too." They fell asleep together, two people who'd lost their way and found it again. Two people who'd chosen each other, not once but over and over again. The future stretched ahead, full of possibility and promise. Grace's career would continue growing. Ryan's company would keep evolving. Their marriage would face new challenges and celebrations. But they would face it all together. As partners. As equals. As two people who'd learned the hard way that love requires more than words. It requires action. Effort. Choice. And they were choosing each other. Every single day. That was the real happy ending. Not a perfect marriage but a real one. Not a life without problems but a life lived together, supporting each other through whatever came. Grace closed her eyes, feeling peaceful and content. She'd reclaimed herself. Rebuilt her marriage. Created a life full of meaning and purpose. She was no longer the invisible wife, overlooked and undervalued. She was Grace Caldwell. Event coordinator. Foundation director. Mentor. Friend. Wife. She was exactly who she was meant to be. And she was finally, completely happy.